Hi there and welcome to IronWorks Brewing. Today we're looking at a bit of maintenance and we're going to be doing some maintenance on a Corny Keg. Right then, so we're going to need a few bits and bobs. Reason for this bit of maintenance is I tend to use this one for my water, for flushing and stuff like that. I've noticed that it's not holding pressure. I've swapped the disconnects over because I didn't know whether it was that, but I've checked the O-rings and there's a few other bits and bobs, and I thought actually they might be getting ready for a bit of a replacement. So I'm going to take you through that process. Right, let me just show you what we're going to need. So, Corny Keg. This one's a 19-litre one. I think it was a second-hand one. Yeah, it's an AEB second-hand one. I've got a mix, as you can probably see from here. I've got a mix of different Corny Kegs. I've got the Kegling ones. Others I've picked up from time to time. I am switching over to these oxy bars, but the principles are very, very similar in terms of the gas post piece. And I've got some spares down there as well. But essentially, we're going to need a few tools. First thing we're going to need is some kind of socket to actually get the gas posts off. Some of them are 22mm and some of them are 17. The newer ones seem to be 17mm in terms of what you need. O-rings. Now, within each Corny Keg, there's a lid ring, there's the gas post rings, there's the O-rings that go under the dip tube and also the gas tube, and then on top of the poppets themselves, and I'll explain what they are in a second. There's these two smaller ones. There's also a third smaller one which is in the pressure relief valve as well. So I've got some spares, sundry box of bits and bobs. I'm also going to swap them out. I'm going to change the gas posts as well. I've got some spare gas posts and also liquid posts. These are the 17mm socket one. So I think on this one it looks like, yeah, they're the 22s and we're going to be swapping over. So I've got both a 22 and a 17 socket. Another little handy tool to have is this, and it just allows you to get underneath and get rid of the O-ring without damaging it too much. So they're quite a handy little gadget. A fine screwdriver would also work equally as well. And then the other thing, if you've not got a socket set, a pair of adjustables. They're a bit awkward to get in, but an adjustable spanner is also quite handy, and if failing that, a pair of these, I call these Gordons, but pipe grips is also handy. Careful with these though, because they've got the serrated edge obviously, so they don't slip, and they can actually damage the actual metalwork. So just a little bit of care needed if you're going to be using the Gordons. Right, I'm going to switch camera positions and we'll start to dismantle this, and I'll take you through each of the different steps. Okay, so we've got our Corny Keg just here, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that actually we've released any pressure. This one's emptied, and that's by just pulling the pressure relief valve. Once you've got no pressure in there, you'll be able to release the actual lid. Sometimes if you've had beer and stuff in there, like I said, this one I tend to use for water and flushing, but if you've had beer in there, you might need to just to give it a tap. I tend to use the back of a screwdriver, just give it a knock. Sometimes with a seal on, it can get sealed and be quite tricky to get off, but just give it a knock it at that end and it'll come loose. So that's as lid with our pressure relief valve in position. I'll show you that one in a second. And then the second part is we've got our gas line and we've got our liquid line. Now on this particular make, it does say in and out somewhere on there, I think it is. But actually there are also, and I'll show you this on close-up, there are also some marks on the actual gas post. I don't know whether you can see that, but there's a little mark just there that denotes that that's gas. Okie doke, so like I said, so these are 22mm. Well, do them first. So there. And again. That's the poppet. And then this one is the liquid line. Put that up there. Come back to the keg in a second. Okie dokes. So there's your gas post, and what you've got on your gas post essentially is you've got an O-ring that sits at the top. That's where your ball disconnect goes over and latches in. That creates the watertight, liquid tight, gas tight seal. The actual disconnect itself has got a pin inside. That pin pushes down on that, and that's what allows the liquid to flow out or the gas to flow in. You can see that, and then when it's not in use, it presses back up. Now inside this one, and I've slightly dismantled it because these little tines, probably not be able to see in there, do latch just under the back of there, and that effectively, once you take it off, means that this is in position, and I'll show you this on the other one. But essentially what you've got there is this that's effectively sat, and then the pin moves through the centre of that hole. You can see that clearly, but that's as you press down on the poppet with the disconnect, and then the spring effectively creates enough pressure to push it back. You can see on the top of there you've also got another O-ring, and that's what creates the seal inside the top of your post, whether that's gas or liquid. So there you've got two O-rings specifically for that, which is why it's also when you're cleaning your Corny Keg, it's also very, very important that you're flushing, you're cleaning your sanitisation fluid through both your gas and also your liquid lines, because as you can see, there's all sorts of little areas where you can get debris, and periodically I will completely dismantle my Corny Kegs and give them a good thorough soak and wash. So that's that one. This is the liquid line, exactly the same. I've not dismantled it, so I don't know whether you can see on the inside. Where's the camera? Probably too close and a bit blurred, but you can see the actual ridges hold on the inside, and that effectively holds the poppet into position. Now, quite a number of the more newer ones, or the ones that you can get as a replacement, and I've got a little kit here, they don't have that set up. They're a bit more basic. They work just as effectively. Essentially, you've got your posts, but the way that they work them, I'll show you that one. So this one's the liquid wine, as you can see there. That one's also got marks on to denote that that's the gas and that's the liquid. So we'll do the liquid line. So essentially what you've got here is exactly the same. You've got the actual gas post itself, you've got the O-ring around the top, which is the O-ring goes on there, and that's why it's handy to have a tool similar to this, and you can sort of then get underneath the actual O-ring and then pull it off. It also helps in terms of putting it on, so you put it into position. I'll show you that a little bit more clearly. I just use it to pull the O-ring over the actual gas post itself. So the other thing you've got here is obviously you've got a spring and you've got the poppet. Now the poppet on these is slightly different to this one. As you can see, this is the original one. Slightly different in terms of configuration. The head's about the same, and it's got the same kind of ridge just there. Now the difference with this is that you're putting another O-ring over there, so that creates the seal, and then you've got your spring, and your spring sits up against the poppet, and that goes up the inside of there, creating a seal. Now that spring presses down onto this bit. Now this is a gas line, so this is the short one, so I can show you that one. So the gas line again has got another O-ring, and that then seals that to the body of the actual corny keg itself. So that's moulded as part of the tank, the cylinder itself. Exactly the same with the dip tube. There's another one of these O-rings just on the inside of there as well. Now I've seen there's quite a few people replacing their dip tubes for the floating ball type. The oxybar kegs tend to use those rather than a length of tube. You could cut this down, or you could get a replacement gas post. Just take that out completely. So put it in there temporarily, and that will fit in there. And then you can get your silicone hose on the inside. You'll not be able to see that, but you can get the silicone hose on the inside. It's a bit of a faff, a bit awkward, and then you can put your floating dip tube in there as a bit of a mod as well. But we'll stick with this because it's easier to see. So you've got your O-ring. As you can see, that's quite flat. It's been flattened, compressed under the pressure, and we're going to replace that one with a new O-ring. It's going to go on there like that. And then essentially what happens is that spring, as we've put it in, rebuilt the poppet, will compress down and press up against, keeping it closed. And then when you put the disconnect on, it will then push that forward, or push that down rather, and then it will allow the gas to go in, or the liquid to come out. So if we go back to here, we'll put the gas post on. Carefully add that on. It's the same thread size there, but the actual nut to put this on is a little bit smaller. And then we need to swap over the 22, and in this case it's a 17mm socket that we need to tighten that back up. That goes over the gas post, and that's nicely tightened. You don't need to over tighten it, just so that you've got it nipped up. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the gas post. Sorry, not the gas post, the liquid post. This is the dip tube. Goes right down to the very bottom. Maybe two used ones. Put my new O-ring on. That goes right down to the bottom. As you can see, the dip tube then gets replaced in there. Dropped a spring in this. Now, interestingly, the dip tube, you can probably just make it out, reaches the bottom. Doesn't go into the centre. Some of them actually get so far down and then I've got a bend on, and then they'll go right to the bottom of the keg. I will get rid of that spring that I've dropped in. So what I need here is I need the other poppet. Need to put my specs on. Bear with me. Just nicely got myself in there. So same principles as last time. We need the O-ring to go on the top. We've got the spring that sit up against the poppet. It's like a mini sort of flanged part of the actual poppet itself, and then that sits nicely up against there, and that's creating the seal. And as you can see from pressing in with the finger, it's keeping the pressure on, so effectively keeping it closed. And again, same principle. We'll put that onto there, and I've put these on the wrong way around already, so bear with me 1 second. I just need to swap that over. I'll put that on the inlet. Been built up again. We'll clean and sanitize this afterwards. That drops into there. Put that on the outlet because that's not got any markings on the side of the gas post. Let's see, that's better. The gas post on the smaller one. So the long dip tube is the liquid line that gets you right to the bottom of the keg. Fantastic. That's nicely tightened up. All those poppets are in position. Now they're spares because these are new posts, but I would have replaced those. Drop fingers today. I would have replaced those as I've shown. Now what we need to do with the lid is there are two parts to this one. So the first one to check is the O-ring. Now this one actually doesn't look too bad. So there's no visible markings, no scratches, no indentations. It's not flattened in any way. It looks pretty good, to be fair. And it might actually be a recent replacement, so that one's not too bad. When I'm cleaning and sanitizing and doing a deep clean, I will take all of these off and drop everything in separate so you're able to get in there, so there's no crud or anything can hide underneath there. But being as that one's okay, I'm not going to replace that one. You can get some food grade silicone as well, and some people do put a bit of food grade silicone around there. And it does help with longevity of the silicone O-rings. I've not actually ever bothered with that, but you can do that if you want to. And then the other thing, the final one, just to double check, is the actual O-ring on the pressure relief valve. So the pressure relief valve, again, that's got a bit of crud and stuff on the inside. So I would take that out when I'm deep cleaning. That sits up against there. See that? Goes in there. Now exactly the same, it's essentially another poppet, slightly different design, but again this one's got an O-ring sat on there. You either get your tool or get your nail underneath it. That one again actually is in pretty good nick. They don't get much hammer, to be fair. The ones that are getting the most amount of wear and tear will be these, where this is where the disconnects are going on and off, and obviously the poppet tops because they've been pressed in and out and all that kind of thing. But generally, not too bad. So that one's okay. I'm quite happy with that. Push that over, so that's nicely back into position, and then it's just a case of putting that. Now that will get cleaned. I will take that out before, but just for the purposes of this video, put a little bit of pressure on so the thread can bite. There we go, and then tighten it right down to the bottom. Doesn't need to be more than finger tight. That's pressed up now, and again, same principle. I think these work on 100 psi, something like that. I will double check that, but essentially that's what operates. Same as one of these are on a much lower rating on the oxybar kegs, but because obviously these are stainless steel cylinders, they can take a lot more pressure, and then that will effectively push up, so the spring is essentially calibrated so that it will operate and then allow any excess gas to escape through there, so it won't explode as a pressure vessel. So they are the main O-rings. Just a quick recap: you've got one round your actual lid, you've got one in here, and again, it's always good practice to take all of these and dismantle them so that the cleaning fluid can get in and solution can get in and thoroughly rinse. You've got one around the top of the gas post, which is just here, and like I said, these are slightly different. The old ones tend to be the 22mm, and the new ones tend to be this. In fact, actually, that's a Kegland one. and that's got the 17mm posts on. Yeah, and I've not modified that in any shape or form. In fact, I won't have even replaced the actual O-rings on the gas post or anything on that one. I've had that probably 3 or 4 months, and it's seen a bit of service, but it's probably still fine. You've then got your poppet, you've got your smaller O-ring sat on there, so you've got the larger one sat at the top of the gas post, that presses up against there, and jobs are good. So I will take the spring out that I've dropped into the bottom of there, but essentially that's it. Maintenance completed. So once you've built everything back up, it's a good idea just to whack a bit of pressure on and just turn off the pressure relief valve. Add a bit of CO2 or what gas you've got into there, and let it build up a bit of pressure. You can spray a little bit of soapy water on all your different connections. I can see I've got a little bit of a leak there, so I will just nip that up while we're talking. That's good, and we're good to go and ready for use. So there you have it. Bit of maintenance on the old Corny Keg. These are absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I've got an array of them. Some I got second hand, some I bought new, but these are the much nuts, particularly for your kegerator and dead handy, or the little party taps, and connecting a bit of CO2 on there. Absolutely brilliant. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe. It does mean a lot. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks all. See you soon.